All right, everybody, welcome to another one of our amazing vlogs and podcasts where you can catch us anytime you want for any of our prior recordings. We're here just trying to get real serious as Brad's laughing into the mic, and I'm trying not to laugh as hard as I can because today we are blessed to have Michelle Edmunds from Westaff with us. Michelle's a great friend of mine, and I'm just unbelievably happy that you could make this happen, Michelle, because she is one of the greatest people you can meet. Heart of gold. Her husband, a little questionable, but we still love the guy. Yep. I just don't ever want to meet him on the ice because he'd kill me. But Michelle, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's get right into it. Why don't you tell our viewers, our listeners, a little bit about yourself?
All right, so I grew up in northern Minnesota. I always like to kick it off that way, and my husband likes to tell me, please stop advertising that you're a Flatlander to everyone. So, yeah, I grew up in the frozen northern Minnesota playing hockey and ice fishing. I grew up coming to Montana. My grandparents and my aunt and uncle live in Bozeman. My mom was born in Butte, so I like to tie in my Montana roots there. I went to business school at the University of Minnesota. Gophers, Golden Gophers, but I root for the UMD Bulldogs. But so I went to business school there, Carlson School of Management, and I got my degree in what I currently am still doing, which is shocking a lot of times to me, but I got a degree in human resources and industrial relations, and then I moved straight out to Montana so that I didn't live in the suburbs of Minneapolis.
And what was kind of the impetus for you that drew you to Montana?
I think my family always coming out here. I do love Minnesota, of course, but it's, the open spaces. I've always felt comfortable here. I prefer the small business environment, I think, to the big one in Minneapolis. Just a lot of friends and connections, and we've made a good life here. So I really enjoy it and still feel tied to Minnesota. But Montana has a lot of opportunity and growth.
And what about Helena? How'd you get here?
Yeah, so that's fun. So I did national student exchange in college, and that's how I met my husband in Bozeman, I lived with my aunt and uncle, and I went to MSU Bozeman for a semester. And so I just knew that after graduating from the Carlson school, I was going to move out and either go back to grad school at MSU. I just wanted to get out of Minneapolis. And I met Chris, and then I actually got a job in
MSU,
Dillon.
is that Minnesota State?
Sorry, good question. MSU Bozeman, go Bobcats.
Yeah, I think she made it very clear, actually. She even, if you can see it on camera, she looked right at you when she said Bozeman.
Go Bobcats.
I felt it. I felt it was just a punch in the gut.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah. I don't want to jinx it for this year for the Bobcats.
I gave you an underhand pitch for that one, by the way. That was
That's
nice,
okay.
easy. Thanks for hitting it out of the park.
Yes.
Good job.
Yeah, no problem. But I actually got a job right out of when I was still in business school. Great Harvest Franchising in Dillon, Montana hired me. So they flew me out for an interview, and I did view it as, let's see what this is. It's training and development. I knew a little bit about the company, and I'm like, I get to see my boyfriend for the weekend in Montana. And lo and behold, it was a great place to work. I moved straight to Dillon from Minneapolis.
Wow.
In 2007 in May. And I worked there we lived and worked there for about 4 years. And I traveled all over the country opening Great Harvest franchises. So when I left there, I think they had 230 franchises all over the country. It's a good plug for Great Harvest Franchising. They're awesome. They get their wheat from the Great Falls area, and everyone all over the country uses Montana wheat. So it's pretty cool. Wow. But we love Dillon, love the cowboy town. My hockey-playing husband also liked to cowboy a little bit down there. And then he got a job at Boeing, so we moved to Helena. So I did that, and then I got connected with the old owners of Westaff and started doing HR that way in Helena. So we never thought we'd be in Helena. We'd go to the lakes from Bozeman to go skiing. We thought we'd end up in Bozeman or Missoula or who knows, but we love it. I love the lakes. I love the business community. I do love Helena, so yeah.
Absolutely. So you come up to Helena, you start working at Westaff. What makes you say, I want to buy into this business?
Well, when the old owners hired me, they kind of mentioned it might be an option. I grew up with two school teacher parents. My dad taught industrial arts, and my mom was a music teacher and a piano teacher. And my whole life, my dad told me to own my own business. So that was something he just always told me, and I always considered.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Come on. There's a story in this somewhere.
Apparently he didn't want to be a shop teacher. I don't know. No, he loved being a shop teacher, but that's what my dad always really instilled in me. He told me to go to business school. He told me that you should own your own business someday. So I always thought about it and thought I might enjoy that. It, of course, scared me and made me nervous. And I was like, I can be happy anywhere. I can just have a stable job.
So what scared you about it?
The risk of owning a business.
What about the risk?
That I had to succeed and enjoy my life and work really hard. I don't know. Yeah, it is interesting, the risk. And then I used to consider myself not a risk taker. And when I've said that to a few friends or business colleagues, they're like, you're kidding, right? You are, of course, a risk taker. So apparently I was unaware that I was okay with risk. So
you just had this perception that I'm not a risk taker.
Yeah, I was lying to myself, apparently, my whole life. Yeah.
And what does Chris say?
Chris was really supportive. He likes to do his thing on the side too, and that's always been a goal of his.
But does he think you're a risk taker?
I guess you'll have to ask him. I've never asked him that question. Maybe I don't want to know the answer. I definitely move fast, so I need people to slow me down.
Now, I want to get back to this because I want to come back and ask you the question, how you hire people to help you slow down or help you fill what you don't bring to the table, but that's for later in the interview.
Okay, yeah.
So we'll come back to that. But so your dad is saying you want to own a business. You get here, you're working for Westaff. The owners are telling you, hey, this is on the table from the very beginning.
Yes.
They don't even really know you.
Right. They must, yeah. Shocking. I mean.
But that's awesome.
Right. Yeah, they were. And I remember telling my dad my dad also complains that I don't listen to him. So this interview should be really validating for him. I'm like, you told me to go to business school. You told me to own a business. What am I not doing? You told me to play hockey. Yeah. But anyways, they let me know that was on the table. And, once I never believed it, I think. And so then once they gave me the paperwork, I was thinking, oh, no. And luckily I had two really good friends that actually, I'm like, what is the word? Referred me to Joel. And they're like, you need someone like Joel. You need his personality, his business style. He knows what he's doing. Because I was really concerned about the risk and how that would change my life, my family life, my marriage, everything. So that's when you need people to slow you down. And so I felt really more confident going through that process. I think they gave me the paperwork and they kept bugging me, make movement. It was hard to sleep at night for me right away when that was going. And I am someone that needs sleep. Ask my husband or my parents or my friends or my children. But yeah, I think that was.
So what then gave you the gumption, the drive to get over the concerns, the fears? What gave you that confidence to plunge forward?
I think definitely Joel did. My husband and my parents all encouraged me. You have to do it. And people I would talk to, I try to confide in close friends. I talk a lot. They probably get sick of me, but I think I need that validation to make sure I'm open to. Am I making the wrong decision? I was maybe hoping someone would tell me yes, and they kept saying no. So, yeah.
You don't talk a lot, Michelle. Oh, by the way, everybody, our hour is up. Thank you for joining us today. No, I'm kidding.
Yes, I babble. Slow me down.
So I love what we're talking about right now because in the business world, we don't talk about it enough. Brad and I have a very good working relationship. We talk about the things that hold us back, I have a couple other business people that I talk with that stuff about. I find that's very important. How about you?
Yes, exactly. I have good fellow business owner friends or in the community. And then I'm also, the great part of the decision I made with buying this business is it's a franchise. So I have national best industry practice training and support. And also maybe coming from that first job out of college with that franchising background, I was one of those corporate trainers that assisted other business owners that bought a business model. Is similar to what I did with Westaff. So I, locally take on all the risk. It's my liability, but I feel like I have that backing of experts. So that's really what, and so yeah, local community, friends, business leaders here, and then having that franchise network. And I'm also part in the franchise network. It's called Franchise Performance Group, where there's been like 8 to 6 of us owners that get together quarterly. We have monthly calls similar to a Vistage group, and that's been huge for support, for challenging me, and for meeting business sales goals and everything.
Does it also help you as a businesswoman or just business person in general leveling up?
Yes.
To find somebody who's been there, done that, is larger than you and has, I don't want to call it suffered, but been through more than you to learn from?
Yes, exactly. I love hearing other people's honesty in business and what's worked. And I want that accountability. So being involved in a few local groups that way and the national group, they hold me accountable, like the other business owners. So the other owners I'm in a group with, they have way larger businesses. They're based out of, there's a friend near Boston, friend in Louisiana and New Orleans. Like they have much bigger markets than I do. But then they challenge and hold me accountable on calls and ask me, why are you doing that way? How about this way?
I love this conversation right here because we don't very often get franchisees in here. And in the couple we have, they didn't want to talk really about their franchises. Like the organizations, and maybe I'm classifying that wrong. It's maybe not that they didn't want to. I didn't bring it out, or they didn't think of it. This is something I don't hear very often of. Some of the benefits of being a franchisee is that they have systematized. They do help you with a network. They help you with a support system because they want you to succeed, right?
Correct. Yeah, they're invested.
And I know in your time with Westaff, you have had several issues you've taken to them, and they've been unbelievably supportive of you.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've looped Joel in, like new contracts, because we were bought out a couple of years ago by EmployBridge. So now we're the largest industrial staffing company in the country, which has brought a lot of perks. But of course, then I went back to that, oh no, what am I signing? What business decision am I making? So, Joel, can you read this how many page document? He's like, do you really want me to read this? Yeah. But yeah, I think it is true. I think people don't like to use the word corporate, but it's franchise owners. And so some of the staffing agencies owned by EmployBridge around the country, most of them are corporate. 20%, I believe, is the number that are franchise sole proprietorship owned by people like myself. And we had, over the last 2 years, we beat the growth for their corporate offices, which they spoke a lot about at our conference. And they talked how that shows how having individual ownership to drive business growth and accountability is huge. So I don't know.
Well, that would just make sense, right? Because you're boots on the ground. You're
Mm-hmm.
in the trenches in the communities in which you're building this business. So you're making the relationships, which would make sense.
Right. It's your name on the line. Mm-hmm. So
yeah. Mm-hmm. And success or failure it's your family. Yeah. I mean, right? It's everything.
Your family.
So you were pregnant at the time you were negotiating to buy Westaff, right? You now have 2 kids.
Yep.
You're a crazy mom. You're going like gangbusters out there running a business. I don't even know what the question should be that I ask, because I'm always so amazed at how you keep it together. Like you have so much going on in your life. I sit there and I look back at my life. I go, wow, I'm such a lazy turd. This is cool. Because I when I look at people like you, I'm like, wow, that there's so much happening. How do you manage it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I ask myself that depending on the day. But I guess with kids and family, so I'm really lucky. My husband has a great job at Boeing and he loves it there. And he's actually going back to school for his master's in strategic leadership through Michigan State University. So he's going to school working full time. I'm working full time. Then we have 2 kids, a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. So just trying to be on the same page with schedules. So we juggle our travel. So besides the staffing, I do a lot of travel for consulting, HR consulting. So I always say, here's my trip. Can you take the kids to school and pick them up that day? So it's just hard to do that. But I think we manage it by scheduling, or honestly for stress relief for me, I plan vacations so I can unplug. My parents have a timeshare in Mexico, so I mooched off them recently and went there, and it's where I can literally have no access to internet, just enough to check the bank account. And because you have to be unplugged or else you would go crazy. And I struggle with the guilt of unplugging too, like the mom guilt, the wife guilt, the business guilt, but then I'm just sometimes.
So let 2 parts to this right there. Every owner I know struggles with the guilt of taking a vacation.
Oh, that's validating for me. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, it's awful. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's really horrible. Sometimes it's like you're sneaking around like a little kid just to go take a little time for yourself. How do you deal with that? Then you're a mom, so if you're sneaking me time, as you just said, I've now got guilt for my kids. I've got guilt for the business. How do you balance that?
I honestly used to feel guilty taking a lunch break. Once I bought the business, I never felt guilty. I used to always go to the gym at lunch and run. It's a stress anxiety reliever. And then so I can, occasionally have a pint of beer and not feel too guilty about it. But once I owned the business, it became an instant guilt thing to put yourself first. But I was definitely putting that on myself. I still struggle with it. One thing I did is I bought an elliptical to put in the basement, so I just get up earlier and skip lunch a lot. But, is that answering the question? I don't know.
Yeah, but as a mom then.
Yeah, as a mom.
Right, so if you take time away from the business, you've got guilt there. If you're taking time away from your kids, you've got guilt there. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of guilt.
Yeah.
But to me, I would think that the kids would be a heavier guilt, but that's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah, the kids, are a guilt for me. Chris and I split them pretty evenly with workload. I'm really lucky. He does definitely, 50%. He'd probably say more, or I'd probably say I do more. We argue about that for fun. But kid guilt, it is hard. I try to, when I get home, the best thing is just leave your cell phone in the bedroom. Because, cell phones, we have access to our email. We have access to, looking things up about the business, the banking, I have a QuickBooks app on my cell phone, right? So it's constantly taking away those distractions and focusing on the kids. I think it was about a year ago. So my daughter still napped, and she still kind of naps, which is huge for parenting break.
I still nap.
Yeah. So Chris naps when my 4-year-old naps, he naps. And I would go let Newton watch a movie, my 7-year-old, and I would work during that time. And he said something to me last year, and I can't remember the exact words, but it made me cry. He told me, he's like, "You're working all the time, Mom." So it was kind of a wake-up call to focus on the kids. Or your family, yeah.
So you have a dedicated process so that you can focus on your family.
Yeah, I think I have to readjust and recalibrate all the time, but I have to focus on it. And it is, so kids' sports, actually, as much as that's crazy, and I only have a 4 and a 7-year-old, but it's hockey 3 days a week for my son. My daughter has ballet once a week, and we're trying to get her to play hockey. So that's overwhelming, but it forces time to, it's the best stress relief is to go watch these little kids play hockey and watch the parents screaming defense. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's pretty funny, those U8 tournaments. Like, they're under 8. They shouldn't even be in goalie pads right now, but we got goalies out there, and their feet are like this big.
It's so cute. And the parents are super into it. But I think maybe it's a blessing for the kids with the business because it forces me to unplug. And if I didn't have that excuse, I'd be going more 90 miles an hour than I already feel like I am.
Go all Elon Musk all over the place.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fantastic. So that's part of what helps ground you, get your feet on the earth so you're not flying at 100 miles an hour everywhere. What are some other techniques that you could give to our audience of things you do to stay in the moment with your family, with your husband? And I'd even switch that role because I think even some business owners are feeling guilty because their family's pulling them away from their business. So kind of even flipping the script, how do you stay in the moment even at work and not let other things distract you?
Yeah, for me, I think I'm pretty type A, so just scheduling that time. Yeah, I know. I feel so chaotic sometimes. I think maybe I'm not type A, but scheduling it. So my husband and I schedule vacations together without kids to focus on us, and then or try to do the date night, or we try to do social things with friends, and that's actually de-stressor for me because then I can't be. I can either vent about the business because a lot of my close friends own businesses or are kind of running businesses, so that helps. The kids, focusing on them helps. At work, I definitely, when I'm with my family, I feel guilty, or if I'm on vacation, I miss my team at the office and I feel guilty. They definitely don't make me feel that way. I'm really lucky. They're highly educated, highly trained. I recommend, paying people good salaries so that you can go on vacation. But I really love working in the office with them. So focusing on, I'm going to be in the office and my appointments either need to be conference calls or they need to come see me is hard. But I've been trying to do that more to stay with the team. And we do trainings, professional development with the team. That's what they want. And it also brings team bonding and growth for them. So those are the types of things.
So what I'm getting from you, Brad, you tell me if you're picking up the same thing, but when you're in that moment, you push everything else aside.
Yeah, I try to focus.
Yeah, you stay hyper-focused. If you're going to be with your husband, you're with your husband. If you're with your kids, you're with your kids. If you're with the business, you are focused in on that business. You're letting everything else to the side.
Most of the time, that's my intent.
Yeah.
But trying to focus on. There's the book, The One Thing, that
great book.
I read probably the first year of owning the business, and that validated me a lot about focusing on one thing, and that we don't have to make it so complicated. You don't need to be an expert in everything. You can find experts.
Right.
It's okay to say you don't know and find out who knows.
I like the permission that book gives you to just take this massive list of yours. Because, we pile it on top of ourselves as business owners, right? We're like, I still have A through triple Z to do.
Oh, yeah.
But getting the permission to say, no, what's the one thing, such that by doing it, eliminates everything else or makes it easier or unnecessary. Like, that's huge. And that totally unlocked me. So that book is, that's my thing. I wanted to jump in with a question, if that's okay, Joel. You touched on this earlier. You said that there was a shift in responsibilities in your day-to-day when your signature moved from the back of the paycheck to the front of it.
Yeah.
Right? So what are some of those obvious or not so obvious changes that you had to go through?
I definitely think those are I think at the beginning it was denial and it wasn't real. And then, of course, things happen in business, good and bad, that make it more real for you. And then I had I bought the business when I was 5 months pregnant with my daughter. And then I had her in July of my first year of having business. And I think I was still in denial the whole time, really. But that was what made it more real in both aspects. You have a family, you have a growing family. Now I'm owning and running this business. Luckily, my coworkers hold me responsible and accountable. It's that you can do whatever you want, but you can't. Balance is the reality. I think the guilt shift was different. Certain emails you get so excited about and you're so proud of what you've done, and then certain emails you can feel sick. So most of it's good. We as humans, what is it, the 80-20 rule? We focus on a lot of the negative. So most of what, we don't want to scare people away from business because it is good. You just have to have the right support network and be willing. For me is to be willing. Willing to admit I do not know things, and I know who to go to, whether it's my franchise network, whether it's locally, whether it's husband, friends, coworkers, telling them, hey, I don't know, let me go find out, my staff, and I'll get right back to you. And I do. And I had my accountant, actually, I tell that story, as she told me once, or I asked her a question, I don't know. We get client crossover questions with HR consulting and then, of course, accounting and business ownership and something. And I emailed her, and she emailed me back the answer. And I was like, okay, I told the client. The next morning, the accountant emailed me. It's Leah Welsh, Strategic Accounting Solutions. She's fabulous. She emailed me she's like, hey, I was wrong. Here's the answer. I talked to Spencer. Spencer talked to Joel. Here's the answer. And that gave me way more trust in her. I already had high levels, but it goes above and beyond. So I try to tell that story to others to make them feel comfortable because, me as a client, I have way more respect for her. So
I love that because too many times I hear, well, if you don't know, fake it, or if you're wrong, don't admit it because you don't want a client to see that you're wrong. And I think that's horrible. That's horrible advice.
Yeah.
Our clients love it when we come back and go, hey, I screwed up. That's on me. But here's how we fix it. Because a client, to me, they come to you for a reason. It's not that you're right 100% of the time. They don't expect that.
Right.
We're not machines. But what they do expect is you to be open and honest. And when you're wrong, carry through on it. Get it, figure it out, get it right.
Yeah, most of the time it's an opportunity to establish a better relationship. And how can I do it better? Even those mistakes, we all, feel a little gut like, oh no, shoot, or say other things. But you correct it, you jump on it, you learn from it, and it's huge.
You just gave me a great line. Getting it wrong is an opportunity to build a better relationship. That's awesome. Because that's a fact in every business.
Yeah, that's true. We did strength finders as a team, and one of my strengths is, we joke about it in the office, is woo, which kind of makes me cringe a little bit. It's you like to win people over. So apparently I really like people to like me. But we joke that that's my woo. Like, I'm okay if I'd prefer to not make mistakes with clients because you don't want to stress a client out, of course. But then I'm like, I'll jump in. I'll make this better for them. Make it to the client's benefit that you made a mistake. And always trying to get better and asking, how can we do this better? Asking experts, whether it's your lawyer, your accountant, your CPA, or your industry support experts. Like, I bug my franchise group all the time.
But don't you think that comes from your constant drive that I know you've got? Because of the number of times we talk, but you have this constant drive for customer service. I don't know where it comes from, but that story, your woo, is like the people that I see with that. They're always identical to it. It is next level customer service.
Yeah, trying to always go above and beyond and be kind. It's hard to not take it personally when people are disgruntled. So that's probably, we talk a lot about that in-house with the staff. And you get your feelings hurt occasionally, but it is not personal, and is the whole killing people with kindness. You always feel better about it after. But yeah, I do want, no matter how your interaction goes, I want to be above and beyond kind and understanding and validating, and fix our system to make it better so it doesn't happen again.
So let's then delve into what was probably your single biggest fear the day you took the keys.
Failure.
Okay. What did failure mean to you at that time?
I guess not growing the business to me is failure. Not meeting other people's expectations. Meeting client expectations. Being able to provide salaries and benefits to my coworkers. That is kind of a big deal.
For those folks who are just listening to this podcast, you can't see her face. Like, her face went from joy to I just crushed her. Like, you
No,
can see
it's
how hard you take that on yourself. But I can tell you the same thing is that's what drove me. When I started, I remember sitting in that little dump office, which I'm still so grateful that I had that little dump. Because I couldn't afford anything more than the little dump. That most people would walk into my office thinking it was the exit to the building.
Yeah.
Because the exit sign was right over my door. It was that bad. But that fear of failure, how has that now shifted for you? Because it does, right?
Yeah. It probably changes depending on the business environment, what's happening. You know, when things are going really, really well, there still can be a different definition of failure. But it's just kind of not an option to me. I always joke that if I do fail, you can find me in a home or something. Commit me. But I think it keeps you driving. Like stress, I view stress can be a really good thing. Stress makes you perform high, means you care. Being nervous for things such as this podcast or other interviews. When people interview, they get nervous, or we do trainings or meeting with new clients, you get nervous. It's good. It means you care about what's going to happen, but just managing that stress so it's a healthy amount.
That's a key, isn't it? Always.
Yeah.
And for you, exercise is a big part of it.
Yeah. Yep.
Family.
That's a stress. Yep. Family. And really liking who I work with, clients and my team.
How do you find the clients that you like to work with, and what do you do with the clients you don't like to work with?
Well, the woo makes it hard for me to get rid of clients I don't like to work with because I still want their approval and that. It's more so maybe changing, if we have a client we think we don't like to work with, how can we change that relationship so it's best for both?
Yeah.
So, because we can only control our own behaviors, actions, word choice, emails. And if you can curb that or adjust it for the client, almost always it makes that a good client relationship. So that would be... And I love figuring that out. That's fun for me.
Have you ever had a client that you were just so opposites with that you had to just say, "Hey, look, we're not matching up"? How'd you handle that?
We have. You just have to have the tough conversation. I might not be the best resource for you, but I have some other resources that I'd like to connect you with, because then you can feel like you're still meeting their needs and you're doing the right thing. My team does a really good job of alerting to me, hey, we don't think this is working. So, for example, obviously we do staffing. So we put people in jobs at our clients, our employers. So not all employers have the best work environment. So sometimes we have struggle with turnover for that client, and it just might be could be us still, but could be that work environment.
I'm going to put more weight on it's them.
Yeah.
I like Mike Michalowicz's books. Strengths Finder is a phenomenal book. That was an eye opener for me. at how difficult of a person I am to work for. But
Me too. I'm pretty intense. It's rough for people.
that right there, the intensity freaks my team out. And they're just like, can you breathe? Can you smile? Can you enjoy things? And I'm like, I am. Can't you tell? And they're like, no. And they want to run and hide. And I'm like, oh, you're not having fun at this. Oh, gal, I'm not. Okay. So then I have to take my deep breath and slow it down and try and make it more enjoyable. How do you create your mind shift so that you can impact these business owners at a different level, right? You've got this business owner who you're seeing that
might have a bad work environment.
Yeah.
And that's why they're having turnover. So yeah, those are really hard conversations, but I take it as I'm the one in the office that will have that conversation, because if I was that business owner, I want someone to tell me.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a way to phrase it to make it productive. We've had these tough conversations, and I can't think of one that's has gone bad, but they're not that often. But I believe we need to let them know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're either struggling because it's such a low pay, or we're getting this feedback from one of your managers or saying these types of things.
Well, and it's hard for us not to take it personally, not to bruise our egos, because our companies are an extension of us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And that's hard.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you, I had to do some serious deep diving into my company and myself to figure out some of the things that were going wrong that were a byproduct of me.
Yeah.
That's a challenge.
I've been there. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you see it so much because you work with, I want to say, hundreds of companies. You've worked with thousands of companies. This to me is like, this is the stuff nobody wants to talk about in business, right? Is when do you suck as a business owner?
Yeah.
And when do you either need to go find somebody, or when do you as a business owner need to go do a deep dive and figure it the heck out so you stop sucking?
Right.
Right? And we all know these people, and we all want to talk, oh, business is great, it's all so wonderful and flowery. No, we never have a bad moment. And yet we know our businesses are sucking, right? And it's usually because of one person, us, is the business owner.
Yeah, the buck stops here.
How do you break that barrier that we put up as business owners to get them to soften up, to be able to be open and honest?
Yeah, I am sometimes TMI, too much information, which embarrasses my husband sometimes, or my dad's like, don't say that. And there's probably definitely times when I shouldn't, but then I do think it helps other people feel vulnerable to, vent or explain their concerns. But I think, honestly, whether you have a healthy, really great work environment or not, you should be constantly wondering and asking what you, Joel, are talking about. How can I improve? How can I be a better me? You as the business owner or manager or leader, when you come into a room or an office, you set the tone. So I believe happiness is a choice, right? Some days it's harder than others to choose happiness, but when you're that leader, you have to, because you set the tone. And it's something for me culture-wise, and I believe most of my team knows it. To me, it's unacceptable to come into work in a bad attitude. Period, end. Like, it's harder to choose it, but you need to be in a good mood. We all have our moments, and if you're in a bad mood, shut the door, figure it out, or go work out at the gym and then come back. But yeah, it's harder. I listened to a speaker once, and she talked about shark music, like when you're gonna blow or get upset, and to curb it, catch yourself, and change your focus. Or she said she'd pick a good song. So when I was cranky, I turn on different music to put myself in a good mood.
So it wasn't Metallica then?
No, that would be my husband's music, that Octane on Sirius.
Yes. Yep.
And I'm like, can we switch it to Prime Country, please? And everyone, I think there's only one person in my office that likes country music, but.
How are the kids split on the music?
Oh, well, they love Taylor Swift.
Of course.
As does my husband, though.
What?
Really? He's a T Swift
Did
fan.
you miss the dueling pianos when he got on stage and he sang "Shake It Off" word for word?
What? Yes, I totally missed
We'll
that.
have to go together. And his friends tease him. It's been 3 years in a row that they pay extra money for him to do that. And he's the type you would never think would do something like that. But
There
yeah,
has to be some sort of video evidence of this. We have to get a hold of this somehow.
yeah,
It's done. We'll get Hannah on it.
We're going to find it.
yeah. My current theme song, Taylor Swift, "You Need to Calm Down." I turned that on to laugh at myself.
That is fantastic. I still, now I have this picture in my head of Chris being up next to a piano.
Shaking it
Shake
off.
it off.
He did this too.
That's fantastic.
Oh, you know who else I think sings that? The Rock. He did
Yes.
that in a lip sync off.
Oh, that'll make Chris feel even better about it.
Yes, so Chris, if you listen to this, you need to go YouTube that for Chris for The Rock. And it is hysterical. The whole thing. He has it dialed.
I do love The Rock.
Let's do a little shift now. We've been talking about you and business and struggles and business owners. Let's talk about the business of Westaff. Of you have two sides of this business, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so tell us these two sides.
So I'm trying to just blend it. I just like to call it Westaff. It was Westaff and Personnel Plus Consulting, which Personnel Plus is the HR consulting and Westaff is the staffing agency. And you do hear us. It is Westaff, but we do say WeStaffMT.com just because it's funny and hard to spell it. So you can call us Westaff or WeStaff. But there's two sides: employment agency, staffing, and then consulting. But to me, why are they separate? They go together. Mm-hmm. It's all things HR. Hiring, recruiting, that's an HR function. The payroll, that's still HR. People in, larger companies that are doing the payroll, doing the benefits, doing the hiring, you guys are doing HR. And so the consulting is more day-to-day, helping employers coach, helping them protect their business with HR policies. We go on site and do investigations. I totally HR nerd out on it. So...
Right now, Montana has one of the lowest unemployment rates in the country. Mm-hmm. I believe in Helena, we're somewhere around 2.5%. Mm-hmm. Bozeman's about the same. They say that the bottom 3% are the unhirables. So we're in a real struggle. What are you seeing in that? How can employers be better, more diligent, keeping employees or finding new employees? I'm throwing a lot at you, I know, but
Nope. Yep.
I'm like vomiting at the microphone here because I have so many questions for you on this stuff.
Yeah, so just the first step, of course, make sure your workplace culture, be questioning it. What can we do to make this a better place to work? Really helps.
And that's not just in like, oh, great, I got a pass to Costco or I got a pass. Right. What do you mean by culture?
Culture, making sure people feel comfortable at work, are happy to go to work, that they don't have, we call them, it's an joking HR, equal opportunity jerks. So you're not discriminating or being mean to people because of protected class if you're just all over rude. People quit supervisors, not jobs, is what all the data shows, and Gallup and the Strength Finders. The Strength Finders, I have a colleague that does a lot of that, Big Sky Way, and he always talks about the data. Chance Eaton talks about the data that if you focus on strengths, people's individual strengths, and you relate it to their job descriptions and their job, that they're way more engaged, higher performers, and likely to stay employed longer. So we work with experts like that. I refer clients to that to make sure their workplace culture, that they keep the employees. So our job, we joke at Westaff, our job is to recruit the qualified person that wants to work for you. Your job is to keep them. And I can still help you do that and connect you with the people that do that. But keeping them, pay rates, even though it's hard, I do. If we actually, our Employee Bridge, national franchise, just did the largest blue-collar workforce survey. They surveyed 18,505 industrial workers, blue-collar workers, and the number one, they will leave a job because of culture, not pay. For them to leave a job for more pay, it's 20% say it has to be at least $2 an hour more to leave. There's some other data on it, but we do recommend focusing on your pay. Make sure you're not paying under the norms. There's good websites and research for that, but pay can be a
What are some of those
demotivate.
websites?
Onetonline.org, so ONET online.org is one, and that is Bureau of Labor Statistics, and you can type in like the job title, and you can get all these very descriptive things, and then you click on wage data, and it compares Montana, and you can select state, and it compares Montana to national rates to check. It used to go up by zip code even in Montana, but not anymore. There's other data, but just be in line with the data because pay is a demotivator for sure. But pay, I'm trying to think of what else. I mean, just make sure you're doing the right recruitment process. You have to move fast. We bother clients a lot. Joel and I have talked about this. You luckily are intense personalities and we move fast anyways, but you do have to move fast because these candidates are getting multiple offers.
I find this so frustrating, though,
Yes.
because I'm a big believer in the
Process.
hire, slow, fire, fast
Well, there's that.
methodology. And we have a multi-step hiring process, and we've had to completely scrap it because before we could get somebody in for a second interview, they were taking a job.
Yes. Yep, so that's really painful.
So what do you recommend?
So I do recommend when you're doing the recruitment, I would say if it is slower, to just be in close contact with that candidate to know that you want them. Here's the pay range. Here's the benefit. We do your top candidate because they could hold off on that job offer. And in this market, employees, it's a good time to be looking for jobs, but they're not, if they don't give their old employer 2 weeks notice. I mean, we should respect that as other employers taking them, that they give adequate notice because we want that, and then it helps their reference checks, yada, yada. But I guess my advice is to keep, if you draw out the process more, keep in contact with that candidate so that they know it's an option because they would love to have 2 job offers to choose between. So it's a negotiating point. Ask them what they got offered.
Really?
Yeah.
And do you believe that most people are honest about what they got offered?
I'm pretty an internal optimist, so I think so. But I guess I don't know for sure. But I think most people, it's hard to ask those direct questions for people unlike you and I, Joel. I'm like, who offered you the job? How much are you going to get paid? If they're caught off guard, but then you can, give a better offer maybe. But
I love asking the question when I've got somebody who comes in to interview with us, if they're working somewhere else at the moment, and I want to dig into why are you coming to us? What is it that we've differentiated versus where you're at? What are you getting paid right now? Because I want to tell them in the interview, look, if you're getting paid out of the ballpark, then I'm going to tell you, I can't get there. I don't want to waste their time.
That's a very good point. Yep. And actually, different schools of thought with posting jobs. Some people don't like to post wage ranges because they don't want, or it might disgruntle current employees. It's like, well, first of all, make sure you're in line with your current employees because you want to keep them. You don't want them to see another pay range that upsets them because that's the demotivator.
Yeah.
But the pay range, giving yourself a wider range can attract more candidates and gives you more negotiating wiggle room. And I believe people do not apply to jobs if the wage range isn't posted.
It's funny. I had been posting a job at one point for better part of 6-8 months and had been getting zero response. I'd reposted it in different ways, changed the verbiage, tried to be different and creative about it, and was really getting nothing. And the job we were looking for was pretty specific. But what was interesting is when I published a pay range that was way above market. I mean, I went so ridiculous above market, like easily 35-40%. I got calls from 2 lawyer friends of mine that said, "Thank you. You just made me a partner." Because they were able to use my job posting as a way to go to the partners in the law firm and say, "Hey, look what they're offering here. You guys have a choice." And I went, "Great, it worked for you, but it still didn't work for me. I still didn't get anybody in the door to apply for the job I wanted."
But that's true. That's true. The low unemployment forces the wage rates up. So
Yes.
you're seeing that, the UI rate go down and the economics show the pay rate. So stuff like that is how you're pushing the market, even though it's maybe not working for you at the time. It eventually will. Well, another thought is it's probably harder with such specific legal work, but can you do more on-the-job training to train people? That's huge. Luckily, my franchise, we won awards we have free online courses for people that work with us. So if they're on our payroll for 80 hours, they get to get certifications for Microsoft Office, industrial math, all sorts of different things with Penn Foster. So there's that. Or in my own in-house, Corinne in my office is fabulous. She's been there forever. She started as a recruiter, and now she's doing on-site consulting and training with me. So she had a career path, even in my small, 6-person office. So how can you do that?
Yeah.
As an employer?
Well, and I think you'd mentioned Chance, and Chance Eaton's going to be on a podcast of ours, and he was telling me some really neat things that, even for what he does as a cultural deal inside a company, there are grants out there.
Yes.
And we don't know this as business people. Like, I didn't know when I was just sitting down talking with Chance. It blew my mind.
Yeah, and I used it right now. Corinne in my office and Emma in my office are going through leadership boot camp. And we did the grant. Chance helped me with it. But it also gives Corinne and Emma, hopefully, right, more reason to stay because I'm providing them these. It helps us as a team. It helps the clients to grow someone's leadership and communication skills. So obviously it benefits me as a business owner. But it does make the number one thing I do it for is I would want that if I were them. And they deserve that.
And I think we also have to be careful that it's not what I want to make sure that our listeners understand this big difference. What you're talking about is not a perk. You're talking about believing in someone, buying into them as someone on your team, because too many owners say, well, I'm losing all these people and I give them all these great perks. And it's like, perks don't keep people.
Right.
That's not culture. Culture is believing in the people around you. Now, you may not have the right fit. I was just dealing with a client the other day who had somebody on their team who clearly was not a right fit. And it was painful to hear the story. Yeah. And I was just like, oh my gosh, just stop already. Because, boy, that person, and I said to him, I said, you know what's amazing though? I said, what if you go to that person who's not the right fit and you talk to them about that and you're open and honest about it and you say, you're not the right fit for us and I don't want you to think of this as we're firing you, but here's what I want to do. Let's help you find the right job. Let's find you the right fit. Right. And so, yes, they were letting them go, but they were then also telling them actively, we want to find you the right fit, and we want to be a recommendation for you.
Yes, you have these skills, and that's a really good way to do it. And then it's a good leaving situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of stuff. Negotiated quits, right? I'm sure you write agreements for those. I don't know.
I love that term, negotiated.
Quit. That's not as positive, maybe.
But
what Netflix has a program. I think they pay people X amount of dollars to go away. Because they don't want people sitting there disengaged.
Who's the big shoe company that Amazon
maybe it was that. Zappos?
Zappos does the same thing. Zappos, when you start, after you go through their 30-day training, at the end, they offer you 3 months' salary to quit.
Yeah. Right. But think of all the money they're wasting with them in.
Exactly.
But make sure as an employer you're telling people what you expect of them and providing them the right training. Because I'm not a Star Trek person, but what's the Star Trek guy that he mind
Spock?
Yeah, so he downloads the information to you and and a lot of managers, and I myself, of course, have done this, or to your spouse, right? They should know what we expect. So the number one thing is make sure you've laid out your expectations.
I was geeking out inside a little bit when you brought up Spock and Star Trek. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
So what else is going on that you see is happening out there in the business world that we're struggling with as business owners from the employment side, things that are great little tidbits, tools that we should be using or taking advantage of?
I'm just keeping up with everything that's going on and changing. Surrounding yourself with experts is probably the number one. Having the right resources. Asking, the economy is changing, right? How are people apply for jobs on their smartphone now? So make sure you're on top of it.
Give me an example of a problem and an expert that somebody used to solve that.
To solve the hiring problem?
Well, if it was a hiring or something else, if you've got a recent example, and I know I'm putting you on the spot here for this one, but...
No, it's okay. I mean, I can give, just because I have that franchise support, I'll give one for my industry. So communicating with potential applicants or employees, for a few years, people, right? It's so annoying to me that people don't listen to voicemails, but people don't listen to voicemails. And even myself, I've been guilty. But we have a text, so everyone in my office has a texting app on their computer, and that's how we communicate with candidates or current employees, because they will text you back. So shifting, and then we'll still get people, well, they're not calling, I don't want to hire them. I understand that that's your value, but we have to flex to that. It's okay to not like it, but things like that. Or, just connecting with experts. I feel like I don't mind telling people, I can't help you, but here's who can, and then hearing how well it turns out. And I've had consulting clients that I'm like, here's Joel's cell phone number. You're going to need to call him. You have a gambling issue? Or is that a liquor license? Yeah. So that's really the advice, but moving forward.
Excellent. So unbelievably low unemployment. We've got huge business growth going on right now. Are you seeing any warning signs out there in the labor pool, things that employers need to be more top of mind besides what we've already covered?
Training and skills like we've covered. If anyone has watched Mike Rowe videos, Don't Follow Your Passion, Follow Your Opportunity is an awesome video. I feel like we have a culture that's, it's the whole follow your passion. Make sure you love your job. You have to choose to love your job, in my opinion.
Is this a YouTube video?
Yes, Mike Rowe, Follow Opportunity, Not Passion, or something like that. If you Google it, it's awesome. But the big thing is we need to be encouraging people to get into trades, into technical work. My dad is a shop teacher growing up that was in the era of they were pushing people to engineering school, and now they're trying to bring it back and pushing those. I'm like, why are you pushing you're a carpenter by trade, Dad. You built the house we live in, and you're pushing these kids to engineering school, and now we don't have carpenters.
Yes.
Or plumbers. My uncle runs a large plumbing company in Bozeman, and they cannot. It's hard to find plumbers. They're in bidding wars. So I want to tell my kids to go be plumbers.
We're seeing huge immigration into Montana. Whether you're from the South, other parts of the country, and from Mexico, from Central America, because we don't have these skilled laborers here.
Correct.
I mean, it's really amazing to see. In Montana, for a place where we're known as not having diversity, that all of a sudden it's like you look around in places like Bozeman, Missoula, even in Helena, we're starting to see it in the construction industry.
Yes.
But those skilled laborers, that's a big deal.
And big opportunity. So it's great. We have Helena College that does the manufacturing machining. Boeing's here, and how many machinists are they hiring? Tons. It's massive opportunity.
And that's got to be a great thing for Helena College to start seeing that shift. Should we be doing more as employers, getting out into the community, talking to kids that, look, you don't have to go to college anymore to make a great living.
Yes.
Right? I mean, whether you're going to be you're going to doing something online with a skill, you're going to be a gamer, which just still makes me laugh. But you see that kid who won the Fortnite tournament and made $3 million as a 16-year-old. Like, that's awesome. But, man, that just like, wow.
Yes.
But you have these kids, I see these kids who we work with who are starting companies out in the oil fields, and they're making six figures. This is real. This is happening in today's economy.
Yeah, and it's great skills like diesel mechanics, machinists, electricians, plumbers. You do go to school. It's just our culture, I think, spoke down to it for too long, and we're paying the price. So, but I think there's hope. You got to push people back to it. So there's a lot of scholarships and those kinds of things. And yeah.
Yeah, I know Helena College does a great job with their
Yeah.
scholarship program. We're involved with it, and we really push a lot. There's a big shortage even for paralegals.
Yes, and yeah, exactly. That's
You know,
a good.
we have come to
legal
you
secretaries,
innumerable
paralegal.
times
Yeah.
for help finding a paralegal or a secretary because we just struggle with it. There's a huge shortage.
Yeah, and how can maybe law firms provide on-the-job training for people, administrative experts to become a paralegal while on the job? I don't know, but sometimes it's just really hard.
And that's what we've had to do, actually, is we
Good.
just hired somebody, and we tell everybody, if you want to go take classes online or in person, we'll pay for it. No matter what it is,
Yeah.
if it's personal finance, business, to getting your paralegal certification, I want to pay for that. I want a more well-educated team.
Yeah, exactly. So that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's what you need to be doing.
Brad, anything to follow up, bud?
Yeah, just my one nagging question that I've wanted to ask you all day. So, and it's kind of a nice little
It's
segue.
got to be a
from what
hockey
we were...
question.
No, actually. No, but I mean, that would totally make sense, right? A couple hockey nerds in the same room. That's pretty
Yeah.
awesome. That rarely happens. So you're talking about hiring and, the different industries that are hurting and maybe some, if take a career like mine or a business like mine, where Woody's job, formerly my job, is not something that is necessarily taught in school. It's a self-taught skill now. I mean, usually you went to like a movie school, you went to Montana State and got a film degree or something like that, right? But now you don't need it, right? So I self-taught myself videography, and we've got Woody, in finding people that have the skill set that Woody and I have is very, very difficult.
Yeah.
So as people create businesses and as we move into this new era of entrepreneurship and people are creating jobs that just didn't exist before, how does a staffing agency like yours manage a challenge like that?
Yeah, I think it's just education and working with employers. I think there's huge, with social media, there's a huge platform to educate people about opportunities and media or doing different careers. For me, it's, again, the strength of having the national franchise that I am proud to be a part of because they are staying on top of that with teaching and everything. But I think definitely getting involved in education at the public education at younger levels is, I think, the key to showing them different. Yeah, because videography, that's amazing. And why not do that? And yeah, MS, you don't have to get a degree. Maybe just start your technical skills and do that. My sister she started to go to college for engineering because, right, we were told to do that. And then she switched to graphic design, which is technical skills, and created a good career that way. And that's hard to find people with those skills too.
Yeah,
So
it's even more in demand now, I think, graphic designers than they were even in the 90s when I was thinking about becoming an artist or something like that, right? Like,
yeah,
even more so now because the need for content is so great.
yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
So, like, if you're a graphic designer, like, you could probably, take your own path here. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you can write your own check, basically, is kind of what I was getting at. But
Right.
thanks for letting me nerd out about
Yeah, no, it's
that,
really
that
cool.
question.
You should let people know about what you do. That's really cool.
And it's a challenge because it's hard for kids. It's got to be hard for kids these days because there's so many different opportunities pulling at them where
Right.
they don't have to necessarily go to school. You can learn on your own. You can build something without going to school. I'm not saying school's dead, but I think schools face a big challenge these days with everything that is online, all the online education you can do that's free.
Universities are in trouble.
Yeah.
Big trouble.
That's true. And technical skill, because that's what we did with our Penn Foster programs, our classes you can take that you really can't get at a college. So
Yeah. Holy cow. Well, we could keep going on for a long, long time on this stuff, Michelle. You've been amazing. Folks, I really, Michelle, I can't thank you enough. Everybody, Michelle Edmunds, what a great interview. If you can't pull at least 10 great things out of this interview that you as a business owner should be doing, you really didn't put in any effort at all because holy crap, this was amazing. everybody, I want to thank you so much for watching us today. Remember, we offer these interviews as a podcast called the Montana Business Podcast. You can catch us on our vlog, on our Montana Business vlog on YouTube. You can catch us on all the various podcasts. Holy cow, you'll catch us on Silverman Law Office's website, mttaxlaw.com. You'll probably be able to catch us this episode. Michelle will probably be posting little clips out there. You can also catch it on our RC3 coaching and consulting website that'll be coming up here in the near future. So, folks, Michelle, thank you so much. Everybody, Michelle Edmunds from Westaff. What an amazing interview.
That was fantastic.
Thanks for making it fun, guys.
Yes, and again, subscribe, everybody, to our YouTube channel or onto our podcast. Thanks again for joining us. Have a great day.